Stan Gibilisco here, coming at you from the black holes of Dakota Territory, the unified provinces of Nevertime, where everything is now and nothing is forever. Or is it the other way around? Nothing is now and everything is forever. But last night I had one of those nights where I didn't sleep much, and I was thinking about the Minnesota Twins, who are not having a particularly good season this year. If you look at the win-loss percentage, they're pretty close to as bad as they've ever been. But they've got a new stadium, and I'm sure they've got plenty of loyal fans, such as myself. Always be a Twins fan, no matter where I go. People may be discouraged at the poor win-loss record that the Twins are going through this year. But I'm not particularly, because I remember not so much the win-loss records. I remember how heartbreaking it was when they lost the 7th game of the 1965 World Series, when Sandy Koufax finally learned that the Twins really couldn't hit off of him if he tried hard enough. I don't know what it was. I remember reading all kinds of stories about that from the point of view of the Dodgers. But that was at the old Met Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota. Metropolitan Stadium, which at that age, 11 years old, 5th grade, my dad took me to the second game of the World Series at Neapolitan Stadium. I called it that because of the colors on the outside. And of course because of the ice cream. But he took me up there, and they actually let us off school to go up there, and we had really poor seats. But Sandy Koufax pitched, and the Twins just clobbered the guy. Bob Allison made his famous catch in left field then, where he caught the ball. He dove for the ball, a curving line drive off the bat of, I'm not sure if I remember who it was. It might have been Jim Gilliam, but it would have changed the outcome of the entire game. But he dove at that ball and he rolled, and he came up hand in the air with the ball in his glove. He'd saved the day. He also struck out to end that World Series, but I can forgive him now. Because he'd have never gotten that far. No one had ever gotten that far if not for that catch. And not so long ago, I saw some documentaries on the old Met Stadium and how, in its later years, particularly in the 1990s, it was allowed to more or less just rot into the ground until the Mall of America was built on the site where that stadium used to be. That stadium was put together kind of piecemeal. Maybe it ought to have been called Kluge Park. Now Apple Valley, I believe, is the town that's there. Well, Apple Valley was the town you go through to get from Rochester to Bloomington. But back then it was just open country, and my dad would drive me up for night games, and I remember the peanuts and the smell of cigar smoke. I don't know if they'll even let people smoke cigars anymore. I don't know if it's even legal. I don't know if you go to prison for smoking a cigar in a baseball stadium anymore. But back then, we did that, and we felt like we were going to be men someday, you know. We were men having good fun on a Minnesota night, and it didn't matter who won or lost so much as the fact that we were just watching good baseball. And that's what I recommend to every Twins fan who sees this video. Forget the wins and the losses, who wins, who loses. They're all Major League ball players. They're all plenty good, and they're all great to watch if you enjoy peanuts and the crunch of the peanut shells underfoot. You know, they used to let us just throw the stuff on the floor. And it was usually a night game, and we sat off of first base, and a great cloud of smoke would form over the stadium, which I named the Great Nebula in Bloomington. Every time, it never seemed it was windy. It was always still. So this Great Nebula in Bloomington, made largely of cigar smoke, would hover over the field as we ate peanuts. I was too young to drink beer back then, and I didn't like the taste of the stuff anyway, but there was a guy who always ran up the stairs, and he'd go, hot dogs here. He'd run up and down the stairs, and we had hot dogs, best hot dogs you ever had in your life. I mean, there was just no beating the place. There was no beating the times, and then whoever won and lost, my dad would drive me back home 10, 11, 12 at night. And we'd pass along Highway 52, and every now and then, some of Highway 52 back then was only 2 lanes, particularly around Cannon Falls. And we'd go past these little coves where crickets were chirping, and there was a strange, sudden coolness, and it was like enchantment. An enchanted night in Minnesota after a Twins game. Whoever had won, these are the memories of my youth, and they can be the memories of your time now, this season. So every Twins fan who's lucky enough to live in Minnesota, go to a game and tell them I sent you. And go to 2, and go to 3. And whether there's a Great Nebula in Minneapolis or wherever the stadium is now, it's a much nicer ballpark now, but it was nice enough back then. But I do remember seeing a picture of the demise of that stadium, taken from the point of view where Bob Allison made that famous catch. And it was overgrown with weeds, and there were rocks, and there were dogs running in packs outside the right field fence. And they showed the scoreboard. It was from where Bob Allison would have stood looking towards the scoreboard as he stood there and waited for that curving line drive to make that famous catch. Sandy Koufax pitching. The Twins beat the Dodgers something like 5-2, second game of the World Series, and I was there. If you're a dad, don't deprive your kid of a Twins game now. And if you're a dad or not, if you're an older man, whatever, go to a game and remember what it used to be like, what it still can be like. Maybe there's no Great Nebula in Minneapolis anymore, and maybe they won't let you smoke anymore, but I'll bet the hot dogs are just as good. And I'll bet the baseball is just as good too. Just watch the game for the sake of the game. Forget who wins and loses. And go there because you love your home team and you love to watch them. Oops, my iPad is slipping off the wall. Oh my God. I got duct tape holding this thing to the side of the house. I remember all of those things, and those are the things that you'll never forget in the unified provinces of Nevertime, where everything is now and nothing is forever. Or is it the other way around? Whatever. Go to a Twins game, go to 2, go to 3, go to all the rest of them. Fill the stadium and cheer like hell, even if they never win another game all season long. Stan Gibilisco signing off. Until next time, so long.